As a family, we have fully embraced the invitation from Jesus when he said to pray, "Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And we've experienced a measure or portions of that, so to speak, of heaven, whether it be rest, peace, joy, goodness, love. We've experienced it. And we've also seen the pushback that can come from religion and performance Christianity when you begin to step into these realities and it begins to come forth in your life. And we've also seen many people be made to feel guilty for experiencing things like peace or rest or joy. And so I want to speak to this because we're actually in Jakarta, Indonesia at the moment. And so this is our first overseas trip as a family. It's very special. It's my boy's 7th birthday today. It's my girl's 10th birthday on Saturday. And so part of this trip is celebrating them. We're staying with family who live here, which is also very special. But it's very easy, and there was a moment where I was tempted to feel guilty about this and almost like, oh, I don't want to share about this. I don't want to post any photos or anything because of religion and performance Christianity that is hammered in this idea that rest, that peace, that joy, that the things of heaven is wrong or is false or is soft. And so I want to speak to this because I know that there are many others who will be experiencing the same thing where you're made to feel guilty for experiencing peace, or you're made to feel guilty when you experience provision and yet others are still stuck in striving. It's a very real thing, and so I want to speak to this. I want to share three things that we have learned in our journey, but I also mostly just want to help you to be liberated, to overcome that pressure, that shame, that guilt that religion and performance Christianity tries to impose on us, and most of all just help you to live more in this reality of his light and easy yoke and in his invitation to pray for heaven on earth here and now today. It's his idea, it's not our idea, and it's something that he invites all of us into, and it's a reality that we can live today. It's not just for the next life, it's for here and now today, through you and to others, to the world around you. And so I want to speak to this because, as I said, we've been living in this reality for a number of years now. It's something that we've intentionally just embraced and accepted, and we just chose to believe him in that. And then we've seen the fruit of that. We have seen peace in circumstances that would shackle and just break so many people. And it's peace that really does surpass all understanding. We know that Paul says that, and it can become this cliche quote in times of distress or times when we need comfort. But for us, it's become this real thing that it's probably been one of the favorite things for me just in our journey, is to be in moments that are incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging, and yet still have peace amidst the storm. It is such a real thing, and it's such a beautiful thing. So we've experienced that. We've experienced rest that is not based on circumstances or external factors. That also has been one of my favorite things, to be in moments of distress, to be in moments of struggle, when our caravan snapped and broke down, when our boy had his near tragedy, and there have been many other challenges that we had along the way, and yet in that, we've still been able to be in a real and genuine place of peace. That's heaven. That's a beautiful thing. And then we've experienced provision that almost seems too kind. It's like it's too good to be true. We've experienced that. And so that has come out of us accepting the invitation and to embrace the prayer, "Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven," to experience heaven here and now on earth. And we've experienced that, and it's a beautiful thing. But as I said, we've also experienced the pushback from religion. And so we have seen religion criticize, condemn, and even try to crucify this reality. We've had people come against us in this. We've had people challenge us in this. Even people that we would consider friends who have questioned this whole reality. And so we've seen that religion, when it sees people who live in rest or live in peace or at least experience some portions of heaven on earth, it's like they flinch and they become very loud and they become very suspicious and they start to question and condemn. And so they start to label this as soft or as weak or even as a false gospel. And to me, that's such a shame, because when we start to label the work of Jesus as being false or as being wrong, to me, that is a sign that we have been discipled more by religion and striving than by Jesus. And so I have watched people be made to feel guilty for this. I've watched people hide their light, so to speak. It's like heaven has become something to hide instead of host. And I have watched people just backpedal and retreat because of the pushback that they get from religion. And so I've learned that the goodness of God is not something to tone down. It's something to embrace. It's something that to receive. In fact, you can only receive it, you can't earn it. And it's something to put on display that glorifies your good Father. And then you become a model or an example, an invitation for others to step into that same reality that Jesus is inviting us all into. And so along this journey, I've seen all of that. And it's kind of like, it's like the older brother in the prodigal son story, where He was so used to performing for his father that he couldn't handle the sound of a party. Now, the older brother wasn't excluded from the feast. He was invited to the feast, but he just did not believe that his father was that good. And the same thing is happening today, where there is so much religion, so much performance Christianity, and so many sincere believers who have just been misled and simply do not believe that the Father is that good. And so when they see people living in rest, when they see people living in peace, when they see people living in joy and goodness, they begin to call it wrong. But like I said, what if that reaction is simply proof that we've been discipled more by striving in religion than by Jesus and the Spirit of God? And so I want to share 3 things that I've learned on this journey, and I want to share these to help you, to liberate you from the guilt, from the shame, from the pressure of religion, and to step into the reality of His light and easy yoke, and this reality, this current reality of heaven on earth that Jesus already invited us into, and that He led us, He began it for us, and then invites us into that same partnership with Him. And so the first thing I want to say is that religion punishes what it can't control. So I've spoken about this in previous videos, that one of the things that religion hangs on is control. And so you'll hear in their language the way I must do something in order to be something, or if I don't do something, then I'm not something in God. And so they base their position in God on what they do or don't do. It's all about control. And so as long as I know what to do or don't do, then I have this control. But it's a counterfeit control. In the kingdom, it's not about control. It's about surrender. It's about trust. It's about leaning into your good Father, abiding in Him, knowing that apart from Him, you can do nothing anyway. And so it's all about surrender. It's abiding in Him. And so religion punishes what it can't control, because that is the makeup, that is the framework of religion and performance Christianity, is control. And when you take control out of the equation, they don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to handle joy that's unearned. They don't know how to handle peace that doesn't come from pressure. And they don't know how to handle unconditional goodness that has not been met or earned through sacrifice, through struggle, or through suffering, so to speak. And so they don't know how to handle that which they can't control. Religion doesn't fear heresy, it fears freedom. And so in the same way that Jesus was such a free son, and that freedom wasn't permission to be careless or to be reckless, it was the freedom to liberate, to love, and then to lead people into that same relationship with their good Father, where now they could become that same example of freedom. And when you begin to walk in that freedom, when you begin to walk as a free son, as a free daughter, religion doesn't fear the heresy, they fear the freedom. And so what it can't control, they will try to crucify. And that's just part of the unfortunate reality. And I wrote here that the religious spirit isn't mad that you love God, it's mad that you stop striving. And so if one of the foundations, or if one of the claws that religion hangs on is control, then the sister of control is striving. And so there is a large portion of Christianity today that has been so influenced by religion and performance Christianity that has beaten this idea that your journey with Jesus has to be one that is full of striving, full of struggle, and full of suffering. And so if you're not striving, struggling, or suffering, well, then you're not a real Christian. And so when people are living in rest and peace, which is the opposite of those things, they are seen as weak, or as false, or as apathetic, or as lazy, or as not a true and good Christian. But if you are striving, if you are struggling, and if you are suffering, well, then you're a real Christian. And so we give badges to those who are going through the most struggle, the most suffering. And we've created this idol out of suffering. And that's another conversation for another time, and I think I will end up doing a video on this, but we have created such an idol out of suffering to the point that we now call exhaustion obedience. And we call burnout faithfulness. And yet all the while, it is the hard and heavy yoke of religion that Jesus came to break off us and bring us into His light and easy yoke. It is a hard and heavy yoke of religion that has just been wrapped in Christian language. And this is why so many people wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel off track with God, wonder why they feel like they never measure up. Why? Not because of their good Father, but because of religion and performance Christianity that has hammered this idea that your journey has to be one of struggle, striving, and suffering. And yet all the while, Jesus invites us to His light and easy yoke, and invites us to pray, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so this reality of heaven, it looks false to the religious mindset, to the performance mindset. Now, I'm not saying that you never have difficulty in your journey with Jesus. We have had plenty of difficulty. I've shared about the caravan when it snapped, broke down on a 100-kilometer highway. I've shared about the near tragedy with our son, with our boy. There are many things that I've also not yet shared, things in our marriage and our journey through that. Even this journey of stepping into His light and easy yoke, there is so much struggle and challenge and difficulty in that. But for the most part, it was because it was this untangling of religion. But there was still struggle, there was still suffering. And Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world. And so the light and easy yoke of Jesus and this reality of heaven and earth is not the absence of difficulty, at least in this life. Rather, it's the empowerment to overcome them. And one day, when we live in the fullness of heaven, all of that will be done away with anyway. But Jesus invites us to pray for that here and now today. And so it's not something that we're just holding off. It wasn't just poetic, it's prophetic, but it's also for here and now today. So that's the first thing I want to say, is that religion punishes what it can't control. The second thing I want to say is, don't apologize for living in God's goodness. Don't apologize for living in God's goodness. Whether you're experiencing joy, whether you're experiencing peace, whether you're experiencing rest, whether you're experiencing goodness, provision, and yet many of those around you are not yet experiencing that, don't apologize for it. You don't have to justify the fruit that Jesus produces, because that's the nutshell of it, is that the reality of heaven and earth is not something you can earn, strive, or work for. It's something that you simply receive by resting and trusting. It's through relationship. It's through abiding in Him. And so you don't have to justify the fruit that Jesus produces. So this reality for us, this living in His peace and His rest and His provision, it's not a work that we can do. We can take zero credit for any of it. It has come about from abiding in the vine, because apart from me you can do nothing anyway. So abide in the vine and you will produce much fruit. And so the fruit that we're experiencing and the realities, these portions of heaven and earth, have come from simply abiding in Him. And so I don't have to justify the fruit that Jesus produces. Peace is not a luxury, it's your and my inheritance. I love what James says, is that every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights, comes from above. So the goodness that you're experiencing in life, whether it be peace, joy, rest, love, goodness, that is all a gift from your good Father. But when we start labeling that as wrong or as weak or as false, I can't think of anything more detrimental to the gospel, and I can't think of anything more undermining to the work of Jesus and to the invitation of Jesus. It really becomes anti-Christ, I can say it that way. And so you don't have to justify the fruit that Jesus produces in you. Don't feel guilty for living in what others are still striving for. Don't feel guilty for living in what others are still striving for. So like I said, I almost wasn't going to shoot this video. I wasn't even going to share or post any photos, because I almost felt guilty for, man, we're living this amazing moment in memory as a family, and it's such a beautiful thing. But sometimes you can feel guilty for it, because you know that there are others who are still striving to attain this. But thankfully, and I'll get to the next point here, is that heaven is not something to hide, it's something that you host. And so the privilege of this journey is that you get to be a light, so to speak. You get to be an example, a model. You get to be a tree with fruit, and others begin to see that fruit, and now they can come and pluck that same fruit. And so I'm thankful that our lives and what we do here and some of the messages that we do, and even in my coaching, is that all of that is to help people to live in the light and easy yoke and to begin to see the realities of heaven on earth here and now today. And so I'm so thankful that by letting our life be seen, we can help others to live in that as well. And I'll touch more on that a bit later on. Heaven doesn't apologize for being good, so why should you? Heaven does not apologize for being good, so why should you? And I love when Jesus says, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And so when you're experiencing the goodness of God, it's not because you've compromised, it's because you've believed in Him. And so there's nothing wrong with you, you're simply aligned. And there is nothing to ever be ashamed of, to feel guilty for, or to apologize for. So embrace that reality. Don't apologize for living in God's goodness. Instead, let it be more of a fruit, a model that others can see and begin to pluck from, and hopefully they can then begin to go on that same journey to begin to see that same fruit in their own lives. So that's the second one. Don't apologize for living in God's goodness. The third and final thing that I want to say is that we need more examples and models today. So like I was saying, we need more examples of this. We need more models of this. We need people to show us what it's like to live in the light and easy yoke, to live from a place of rest, what it is to abide in real time with real life, and how to do it from a place of integrity, purity, and sincerity. Because sure, there is a misuse and abuse, and there are those who misuse even heaven on earth, and there is some really perverted things out there. I'm very aware of that. And so what we need more than ever is not the misuse, but the right use. And so the correct response to misuse is not non-use, but it's right use. And so more than ever, we need models and examples of what this reality looks like. The fruit of abiding is louder than any argument. And so even though we get pushed back and kicked back, they cannot argue with your life lived and the things that you're seeing in your life. And that's one of the real benefits of being a model and being an example, is that people get to watch and glean from your life. And so it's not necessarily what you say, it's what you live in. It's the fruit that comes forth in your life. And quiet fruit always outlasts loud opinions. And so though there might be pushback, though there might be criticism, and though religion might try to crucify you for living in the realities of heaven and earth, Quiet fruit will always outlast loud opinions. You don't have to defend the feast, just live in it. So like I said, the older brother who was so offended at the party that was thrown for the younger brother, you and I don't have to defend the feast. We don't have to explain ourselves or explain the reality we live in. We don't have to defend the feast. We just get to live in it, and we just get to enjoy it. The world needs more models of peace, more than messengers of pressure. The world needs models of peace more than messengers of pressure. And so like I said before, is that religion has created this idol out of suffering, out of struggle, out of pressure, and it has come to so much of a point that now peace sounds wrong. Peace sounds rebellious, and peace sounds like sin. And yet peace is part of heaven, and Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and he invites us to live in that same peace. People may doubt what you say, but they can't argue with your life. People may doubt what you say, but they can't argue with your life. And so if we don't model the goodness of God, then religion will keep defining it for all of us. And so I think that's part of some of the challenge here, is that there are many people, and some of you are listening to this, you're going, man, I always knew this, and I knew that's a real thing. But we're often surrounded by people who live in the opposite, many times who live in religion and performance Christianity. And so when the Spirit of truth is trying to lead us into this reality of His light and easy yoke and heaven on earth, we only see the performance in the religion, then we question and doubt ourselves, and we second guess ourselves. So I get that, I understand that. And so if there aren't more of us modeling this, if we're not modeling the goodness of God to the world around us, then religion will keep defining it for us. And that perverted view or lens will always cut us short from what Jesus always intended. It'll mislabel who Jesus is, and like I said before, it becomes very anti-Christ, and yet it talks in Christian language, and it's such a shame. And so let your light shine. As Jesus said, let your light shine so that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And so as you and I just embrace, don't apologize, but embrace the goodness of God, the realities, the portions of heaven and earth that we're currently experiencing, when we begin to live in that, and we let that shine towards others, and we let people see the good deeds and the goodness of God that's flowing through our lives, they begin to glorify your good Father. And so that's the third and final thing I want to say, is that we need more examples and models today. Those examples, those models will always speak louder than any argument. And so many times it's not what you say, it's what you live in. And so again, those three things. Number one, religion punishes what it can't control. Religion doesn't fear heresy, it fears freedom. And yet it's for freedom's sake, Paul says, that Christ saves us. Secondly, don't apologize for living in God's goodness. Because if anything, the third and final thing, we need more examples and models of what it is to live in this. And so if you have been experiencing the fruit of abiding, don't downplay it. And if your heart is at rest, don't second guess it. And if heaven is breaking through in your life, the realities of heaven are starting to break through on earth through your life, don't squash it, don't doubt it, don't hide it. Let it be seen before others, because I can promise you this, there are many, many others out there who the Spirit of truth is leading them into this. Some of you are listening to this and you know the Spirit of truth has already been leading you into this. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm just affirming or articulating maybe what you always knew. But there are so many who have been caught into this. They know that it's there. And we need more models and examples to show us the way of Jesus, the way of agape, His light and easy yoke. And so this reality of heaven on earth, it's a real thing. And we get to experience that. We are experiencing it in certain measures and in certain portions. And one day we'll experience it fully with Him. But this is an invitation that He invites us all to live in. And like I said, it's not just for the next life, it's for here and now, today, right here, right now, through you and to the world around you. So the goodness of God does not need to be toned down. It needs to be received, it needs to be expressed, and it needs to be seen by the world and life around you, the lives around you, so that they may glorify your good Father. So, this is the joy. And I invite you into this. And if you want help walking this out, by the way, I have a coaching and community where, like I said, I help people to walk into this reality. Feel welcome to reach out, just an invitation, no pressure. But this is a reality. And so I encourage you, go for it. You already know, you don't need me to tell you, the Spirit of truth is already leading you. And all of this, heaven on earth, the light and easy yoke, it's not my idea, it's His idea. And it's a reality that we get to live in today. So bless you.